12. A day late, but better late than never. Last week, we lost Jay. Fleming had our top score of 154. A lot of us bunched up in the 100s, and then Mason and Jay were significantly lower. Would have been a little closer with Jay and Mason if Jay hadn't started Brian Thomas Jr., who we knew was out going into the weekend. But he still would have lost, so that didn't lose him the week. Fleming is another top scorer. 150 is up there for one of our top. That's our third highest. I'm assuming we're going to start seeing scores probably in the 150s for our highest now that we're down to just a 7-person league. Our low score jumped up a little bit. Again, should have been probably in the 80s. Margin of loss got a little closer. And this week, I'm assuming we're going to see a low score in. It could be in the 90s this week. We're all projected, quite high in the 110s is the lowest projection. So it does not surprise me if we see a low score in the 90s, maybe even a low 100. Jay got 2 zeros. One because he started a player who was out. The other one was Quentin Johnston, who just inexplicably went from a top 5 wide receiver to totally unusable. Drake London and Kyron were great for him. Troy Franklin got a great start, but just too many duds across the board. Rashad White, if Sean Tucker doesn't get all the work that he did, Jay probably survives because Rashad White could have, if he broke one of those long runs that Tucker did, that's enough points to flip the script. Not a whole lot of trades in this league, so changed it to waiver wire bids and little fab update that me and Brian have most of it. Reagan has in another 21%, and the other 4 have almost nothing. Fleming gets Kyron for 162, and then Brian gets Drake London for 35. I grab Hurts for 25, even though no one bid on him. Drake London goes for way more if he's not injured. Who knows when he's coming back? They're calling it week to week, so maybe it's just 1 week off. Also, who knows what Drake London looks like with Kirk Cousins instead of Michael Penix. Not that Penix was, some amazing quarterback, but he was certainly feeding Drake London. I'm wondering if this is a Darnell Mooney weekend, but we'll see. Fleming pretty much sets his team in stone. It seems he now has $6 to use, and maybe that's plenty because apparently only me, Brian, and Fleming are spending anything. No one else put in any waiver claims other than the 3 of us. I have a few buys. Probably the biggest. The biggest one is probably Achane, and maybe I just feel that as the Achane owner. But Ladd and I don't know, maybe Harvey and Vidal. Amari and Hampton still out. Debo and Terry have been all right. Jalen Waddle's actually been great. But we're coming towards the end of the buys next week. We get a week off of buys. This should say week 12 buys, not week 11 buys. We added 2 Grim Reapers, Hawkinson and Kyron Williams. Ironically, we're both on the week 9 and 11 teams. We see that actually with a couple of them. I went through, and anyone who's not on a team right now is in red. So most likely, unless something crazy changes, they're going to be stuck at 2. I'm surprised that no one's gotten to 3 at this point. But it made sense that Jay didn't kind of add anyone to the 3rd because he hasn't made a whole lot of moves. He kind of just drafted a team and has crazily been starting it all year. But the rest of these guys are at least on teams. Some of them are started, and so one of these days they're gonna get to a 3rd. Fleming's got he's got a solid team. Obviously, his team is fantastic right now. We're doing this. I'm doing this a day late, so the Thursday night game has already started, and he got a dud from Josh Allen already. That completely changes his outlook. Last week, Josh Allen scored 44. Right now, he's sitting at 10.2, 10.12. Brian and I are we're hoping that Fleming goes home and we can just take his players, but his team is fantastic. I still think even with a dud from Josh Allen, he's JSN Monty. It seems like a Monty game against the Giants that he's going to get in. I am very interested to see how Bijan does with a new quarterback. Should be a great matchup. I mean, New Orleans is really bad. He should get a lot of work, but we saw Bijan be really bad with Kirk Cousins, and really bad as in he's not the number one, number two, number three overall running back. So it'll be interesting. Maybe this is Fleming's week to go. Landon's team, he had a really good week last week. It looks to be a solid team. The Rico Dowdle is one of the the best pickups or best draft picks of this year for sure. Puka, Rashee Rice are great. I think Chase Brown is in for a really bad game. That would be looking at his team. I think Chase Brown has a really bad game. He would be in my negative regression if I was still doing that. I also think Judkins has a bad game, but so does Landon. He's not starting him. Landon's starting, I think, Tet McMillan over Judkins, it looks like. That's what I would do as well. He has Bucky. Be interesting if Bucky comes back this week. I think it's a good sit because they're playing a really good run defense, and he'll probably be, if he does come back, he'll be splitting time with Tucker and White. But probably will pay off down the road because they got a soft schedule coming up. Bailey's team, a lot of green here, and at this point, if you have anyone in the yellow, it's bad because there are 7 teams left. So yellow, Jake Ferguson at 6 is not great, but the rest of his team just full of studs. I'm still not a believer in Travis Etienne. Other than that, his team is fantastic. Alvin Kamara has been coming on a little stronger. The combination of George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb is good. I'm another game I'm really interested in. One of the podcasts I was listening to was talking about how this is kind of like a perfect matchup of strength on strength and then weakness on weakness, where the Eagles defense is so good, the Cowboys offense is so good, but then the Eagles offense is kind of bad, and the Cowboys defense is definitely bad. So it'll just be interesting how that game plays out. As someone who's starting Jalen Hurts, I'm really hoping the offense gets rolling. And I think CD and Pickens are going to be fine. But I do think they underperformed just a little bit because of the matchup there. I wouldn't be surprised if one of them has a really good game and the other one does poorly. So when you kind of have both, you'll have an average of 2 decent ones. Reagan, a lot of yellow here. Reagan, we also can see he's off to a bad start as Dalton Schultz got 2 points. Woody Marks got 7.5. This is not great. Reagan has his top 2 running backs who are fantastic, and after that the team is tough. It does seem like JMO is starting to get going, so I actually think he's a really good start this week against the Giants. I could see, with Campbell taking over the play calls, JMO's definitely getting more work, trying to get more involved, as we all thought he was going to at the beginning of the year when he signed that big contract. So he's been wide receiver 3 and wide receiver 6 the last 2 weekends, and maybe he continues that and really helps Reagan out. I had a little bit of a stinker last week, with JT on bye. That was tough for me, but survived, and now I got Achane on bye. Getting through this week would be big for me so that I can finally get past all of my byes. Justin Jefferson just looks awful. Well, he doesn't look awful. J.J. McCarthy looks awful, which is leading to J.J. really underperforming. Devontae Adams gets 1 catch. Thankfully, it was a 1-yard touchdown. But they use him like a goal line back. I'm a huge fan of Devontae Adams. I think he's an awesome fantasy football asset. And so I'm probably higher on him than most. So I think he's like a great wide receiver too. I'm definitely missing that like top end wide receiver 1. Hopefully with all my fab at some point I'll be able to grab that. I thought Justin Jefferson was going to be that person, but thrilled about Jacoby Brissett taking over in Arizona because Trey McBride has been fantastic, and hopefully I can just survive one more week to get past my buys. Brian's team, Brian's off to a great start. He has Cook going for 20 against a really good run defense. He picks up Drake May a couple weeks ago, who has just a great matchup. one of the probably more interesting things to look at here is Ricky Pearsall, and does he get more involved his second game back? That offense is starting to hum, starting to get more of his pieces back. Brian has a lot of fab to work with, but definitely some holes. Ashton Genty, this could be a terrible game for him. There's a chance that Genty goes for under 3 points. I think there's a real chance that Brian goes home this week, even though he's rated pretty highly. It's harder to say that now with Cook having such a great game already. Brian would have been my choice if I made this video just 24 hours ago. I think Pearsall and Pittman, I mean, as they're ranked here, they're the worst two, wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2, according to Fantasy Pros. I think Genty could have a really bad game. I think Travion Henderson is going to start splitting the load with Stevenson. For what I just don't know if he's won the job, because clearly at the beginning of the season they did not want to give Travion the ball. He's proven that he's an excellent running back. He has a great matchup. I just wonder if Ramondre comes back, if the coaching staff just turns the reins back to Ramondre. I think Ken Walker has a great matchup, but the Seahawks just cannot run the ball. He got 44 yards in the air last week, and maybe he continues at that. That was going to be my hot take, was Brian going home. A little harder to say that after the 20-point game from Cook. Mason has a somewhat solid team, kind of on the looks of it, but the 4s and 5s, and then the 6 and the couple 7s are, that's not even middling. That's just underperforming. He's on the chopping block according to Sleeper. He had a bad game from Nico Collins already, so even more so, battling it out in that bottom spot. And this goes back to that Eagles-Cowboys game, that the Eagles' offense has not been good. The Cowboys' defense has been really bad. Maybe Saquon gets it going. I'm interested to see. There's a lot of actually kind of interesting games this weekend. The Chiefs Colts game, fascinating. If you removed our ideas of these teams going into the year, on paper, like, the Colts should be highly favored. They're playing much better football. The Chiefs have been playing bad football, but the Chiefs are actually favored to win the game, at least on the betting odds. And coming out of the bye, it'll be interesting how involved is Sauce Gardner. Does he shadow Rashee Rice? Does Mahomes connect on some of those deep balls? Another really interesting stat I heard was when opposing quarterbacks travel to Denver, their deep ball accuracy just plummets to a statistically significant way, that they become more like Brock Osweiler throwing the deep ball than Patrick Mahomes. So maybe he has a little bit of an off game last week. You played a great defense in a tough environment. They probably bounce back. This could be a high-scoring affair. Just another game that I'm interested in. Our rankings here, the smaller we get, the harder it is to even talk about rankings. Anyone could go home at this point. I'd say the beginning, the first few weeks of the season are a little bit of just luck. Who's the worst team, who has a bad injury. The middle of the road is, there's usually some top teams and some bottom teams. And at this point, everyone, even though Mason has like the worst team, that team is still really good. I mean, we're talking about a team led by Saquon Barkley, Patrick Mahomes, T. Higgins without Jamar Chase, Nico Collins. So this is still a good team, but there's just 7 of us. So any one of us could go home. Maybe it comes down to Monday night. CMC, Reagan will be, if he is trailing, he's going to have a great piece there to come back. But Rico and Tet and Kittle and CMC will certainly, hopefully, be a good game. And hopefully we do have it coming down to Monday. It's more fun when that happens. Again, if I made this yesterday, and I'll stick with it, I think Brian goes home. I've picked him so many times, and Brian, you're lucky that I've never been right. So I'm picking him again. It's a little harder after James Cook gets 20 points, but I think there's too much danger. I just think, man, Ashton Genty is is just not good. The team is not good. He's playing a great run defense. But there you have it. We're almost to the next video will come out. It will be in the final third with 6 teams left. So congrats on making it this far, and good luck.